Hey, friends. Welcome back to another Tuesday Live where we're going to check in and see how you guys are doing. But today we have a special guest. But before I bring her in, let's say welcome to those of you that are just joining us. We have a few new members here. So welcome to our community. For those of you that are new here, my name is Rosa Barrigueta, and I am the Lift Program Director here at the Dorchester Boys and Girls Club. And we usually go live every Tuesday at 12 noon, so mark it on your calendars. And some Tuesday we bring a guest like today. So today I have a special guest for you. Let me bring her. Her name is Materia. She's the mom, and she'll tell you more about herself and what she does in a second. Hi, Materia.
Hi, Rosa. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
So thank you for taking some time of your busy schedule and sharing some tips with us. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are? What do you do, not just as a mom, but in your business too?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Materia Francis. I am here in New York. I'm originally from Bronx, New York, but I currently live upstate, not too far, maybe an hour outside of the Bronx. I have two daughters, twin girls. They're 9 years old, named Maya and Jaden Francis. And most recently, I became a children's book writing coach after we helped launch my daughter's children's book. She actually wrote it over punishment during the Christmas break back in December. And I find that children are most creative when they have nothing else to do. They can't watch TV, they can't use devices. So it was really a learning experience for all of us here, how creative our children can really be once we limit that device time. You know, they really kind of hone in on their creative skills. So it was actually a really great experience for us.
That's how it was back in the days, right?
Yeah.
Kids played outside.
Yep, pretend play. Pretend play is amazing. And, you know, they teach that a lot in preschool, and it looks cute, but it actually really helps develop so much character in our children.
Awesome. So a little bit about your business.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, I'm now a children's book writing coach. I've been doing this for maybe the past 2 to 3 months. And what I do is I love to teach parents and children how to successfully write and launch their own children's book. You know, when we started, so let me go back. So when she brought her manuscript to me, I was just really impressed. You know, my daughter's 9. And again, you know, they're so stuck on these devices. So to actually see her writing was just like, wow, you know, babe, this is really good. And as a mom, you know, we always want to push our kids to go further, go the next step. So the first thing I did was look up how to publish a book, because I'm like, I want to do this for her. Like, I want her to see her work out there. I want her to see what success in her own right feels like. And what I realized was that it was such a strenuous and stressful process because I had no blueprint. I didn't have any friends at the time who were authors or who had written children's books. So it was just a lot of research, so much time, so much money. Yeah, so much money wasted. So now fast forwarding, once we did launch her book, so many other moms reached out to me wanting to know how they can do something similar for their son and their daughter. So I actually put this blueprint together. It was like fresh off the press, not antiquated stuff that people can use to launch their children's book, whether it's for them or for their child, and do it affordably. Because again, I mean, I'm not, you know, we're not rich. We're not necessarily poor, but we're budget conscious, you know? So right after the Christmas break, we just spent all this money on, you know, toys and gifts for people. I didn't have a lot of money to do illustrations and book launches and stuff. So I was able to get this book launched on a dime. So it's just something that I want to share with other parents so that they could do it for their children as well.
Awesome. So do you want me to pull up the presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Because she's going to show us a brief introduction of some of the things that she's doing and how she did it, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about the LOL strategy. I kept calling it yesterday LOL, right? Oh, LOL, I think I was calling it.
AOL, you were calling it the AOL strategy. So it's called the LOL strategy. And, you know, I was trying to come up with a name for this thing. It's like I knew what it was that I wanted to do and how I wanted to help people, but coming up with a name for something is always, it's almost like the hardest part, because you want it to convey a message, but you also want it to reflect you. And I'm a little bit of like a quirky person, right? So I'm like, I kind of like LOL. And I came up with Little Ones Launch. And Little Ones Launch, it's just that, launching your little one. Whether it's, again, and whether it's for you or for your child, we're talking about children's books. So it's called the Little Ones Launch strategy. And you can go to the, yeah. So I chose to show this slide called My Whys, because I think for any business, it's always important to have a why. Like, why are you doing this? And as much as we want to make money doing what we love, you know, it's really good to focus on, aside from the money, why exactly is it that you want to do this? You know, how are you going to feel, and how do you feel when you're doing something? And for me, my daughters are really a focus for me, you know, just letting them see, and again, feeling their own success. And again, them watching their mom do something for them. So when they grow up, they can feel that success and want to do the same thing for their children, whether it's launching a children's book or not, but just taking pride in what you have and starting something and seeing it through. So my daughters are my whys. And again, I said they're 9. That's Jaden there on the right in the picture, and that's Maya on the left. I don't know what that is. They're actually left and right in both pictures. I guess that's just their
Right?
that's their thing. Okay, you can go to the next one. All right, and now, so here's a quote, and for people who have ever thought about writing or may consider writing, I just really, really love this quote by Toni Morrison. If there is a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. So I think back to books that I've read when I was younger, and I remember wishing that I can read certain types of books, whether it was books that had more children that looked like me, or books that were stories about children who had similar experiences like I did, family dynamics. So if there's something that you feel that you want children to read, then write it. You know, why wait for someone else to do it? This is your moment. You know, no one, even though we have a lot of children's authors, no one's going to do what you do the way you do it. We can move to the next one. All right, so I'm going to share with you some of the module 1 from my course, and hopefully you guys find this helpful if you've ever wanted to write a book, or if you wanted to help your child do something similar. You can go to the next one. Okay, so first you can go back to the first one, Rose. There you go. So the 2 questions we're going to talk about is where you begin with this process, and then we're going to go a little bit into, you know, what your storyline should look like. What is my storyline, and how do I want to develop my characters? You can go to the next slide. Okay, so where do I begin? Where do I start? I would ask myself, who's reading this book? Because after my daughter wrote her manuscript, obviously she wrote it from a child's eye, from a child's perspective. So it was very easy for her as a child to write something that would be easy for another child to read. But we also realized, you know, after her book was published, there are adults who would like to write children's books. So as an adult, when you're creating your manuscript, you want to ask yourself, you know, is this targeted for the children to be able to read it on their own, such as like leveled reading, or is this meant for the parents to read it for the child? And that will just kind of help you develop, you know, how you phrase your words and how many words you have on a page. We'll go a little bit more into that in a slide or 2. And what is my target age group? So your target age group, we say 0 to 2. You can go back to the previous slide, Rosa. 0 to 2, ages 2 to 5, or 5 and up. And that's generally how you want to think about, think about things as you're writing. And we'll go more into that in a minute. And then also, what do I want my writing style to be? Is this going to be like a rhyming book? Is it going to be more of poetry, or is this going to be like a full-on story? So again, just in terms of outlining your thoughts before you begin writing, these are the things that you want to ask yourself. And this is super, super important. And that's why I put this note here in the beginning. You do not want to name your book before you are completely done and satisfied with everything that you've written, because you may come up with a name and say, oh, I love the name for this book. But as you start to write and become creative, you may realize that it doesn't fit the title, or that the book didn't take the direction that you originally thought it would take. And then once you've named your book and you've become so fixated on this name, the actual content of the book may not really be what you wanted. So I say, be creative, write your story. And once you're content with your story, then you can look at everything you've written and come up with a suitable name. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so I want to go a little bit into just a little more detail as to the categories for your books. So ages 0 to 3. These books will most likely be hard board books. There's a lot of repetition, a lot of rhyming. You're going to see, the pictures are very simple, very colorful, bright colors, shapes, numbers, animals. You may see pictures of a baby, because babies love to see other babies, as we know. They love to interact with babies. A lot of board books for this age tend to be bedtime books. That you read during, nighttime wind down. One of my kids' favorites growing up, which is a good example here, is Brown Bear and the Going to Bed book. I think, by the time they were able to utter words, they were able to kind of anticipate what's coming next in these two books. So I think that's a good theme to keep in mind if that's the age range you want to focus on. Then we have picture books. Picture books are similar to my daughter's book, what she created. This is ages 3 to 8. It's you want the reader or the listener to connect to the story. So a lot of times there'll be a very simple plot, some sort of a storyline. It'll teach a lesson, like maybe going to the potty or kindness and those types of things. The topics tend to be relevant to that age bracket, and the majority of the book should be illustrated, because at this point, kids are still very connected to pictures, and that's how they relate to a story. So you want to make sure it's colorful, it's vibrant, and lots of wonderful illustrations that connect to the story, and that the wording is palatable. And I like to say palatable here because you don't want words that are too big. Again, they're 3 to 8, they're early, they're just learning to read. So you want to make sure that if their parents aren't reading to them, that they can actually read the book with ease. So that's that age bracket. Then we have ages, no, you can go back, Rosa. Then we have ages 5 to 9. That's the early level readers. And this is, at this point, they're kind of used to reading. You may see like soft covered books that say level 1, level 2, level 3. Again, they tell a story. A lot of times these books will be about a child in school, because it's just easier for the child to connect to the story. And it might teach a lesson about, being a sibling, bullying, conflict, because these are things that children in that age bracket start to experience for the first time. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to target your book towards that age bracket. Then ages 6 to 9. At this age, kids are starting to read their very first chapter books. And this is the age bracket that my kids were in last year, up until this point, where you're not seeing as many illustrations. The print on the page tends to be a little bit bigger now. It'll have, quite a few words as like an adult chapter book, but the print just tends to be a little bit bigger. These are fully developed stories and characters. It might have maybe, 8 chapters, maybe only 3 to 4 pages each, and the illustrations are not very colorful at this point. You can do colorful illustrations, but most of the time with chapter books, they'll be like stencil type illustrations where it's just outlines of maybe a character and one other type thing, whether it's character in a dog or a character in an object, but very simple illustrations here. And then lastly, specialty books. And this is something that you start to see more often now, as you know, we're in this age of the internet where parents are more savvy in terms of what we teach our children. So you'll see books that educate on very specific topics. But they illustrate them in an age-appropriate way. So, you know, you may have a book on finances, a book on travel for children, a book on certain types of sicknesses. I know I was in a Facebook group recently, and we were talking about, you know, children's books, and there was a lady who was saying that she's working on a children's book that speaks about diabetes. That's my point earlier. When she was younger, she didn't have a book to read. She's diabetic, and she didn't have a book to read to educate her on what it meant to have diabetes as a child. She, you know, relied on what doctors told her and what her parents told her, but she didn't have something that was more child friendly. So you'll start to see more specialty books in these areas. And if that's something that interests you, then, you know, that's something that you can do. I think it's very much needed for our children right now. You can go to the next slide, Rosa. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit into, you know, storyline and character development. What do you have planned for your story, and what is your writing style? You know, will this be poetry, or will this be a rhyme? Will this be a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, like a fully developed story? Is that what you're looking for? How many lines do you think you'd like per page? You know, some children's books will have maybe one line and then full illustration at the top. Other children's books may have, you know, illustration and then maybe 4, 5, 6 lines of words on a page. So, you know, you just kind of want to start to visualize how you want this book to look internally. What type of reading experience do you want your reader to have? And how many pages do you think you'd like this to be? So, you know, my daughter's book is about 24 pages, but it's 24 pages from start to finish, meaning that includes the title page, that includes the credit page, that includes the copyright page. And then at the back of the book, she also has something for just like a little interactive thing where a child can fill in, who does this book belong to? And like a blank page, because, you know, sometimes kids, like, I don't care how interesting your book is, sometimes they want to doodle. So there's like maybe 1 or 2 blank pages in the back just for them to doodle and personalize, you know, their own book. So start to think about, how long do you want this book to be? And because it's a children's book, you don't want it to be too long. You don't want the child to lose interest. But I would say on average, a good illustrated children's book would probably be about 24 to 28 pages. And I think you would be good there. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Would you say a whole paragraph per page, or maybe like 2 to 3 sentences and the illustration?
I think 2 to 3 sentences and an illustration would suffice. And are they able to see me right now? Because I can show you an example. Okay, so I actually have my daughters here, and I just want to show you what I mean by, you know, how the page looks. So this is, well, first, this is the outside of her book. And then this is the inside here. And if you look, most of the page is illustrated, and then she's got some words on the bottom, and she kept it fairly simple. It's just 2 lines here. If you did 4 or 5 lines, that's perfectly fine. It's just that the book that she wrote was short, so we only did 2 lines here. But again, you know, it's colorful, it's vibrant. Then you see the second page here, you know, it's just a simple one-liner that she has here. And then I'll just show you one more page of what I mean in the back of the book. So she has this book belongs to, so this is included in the page count. You know, the child can write their name. And then she's got some blank pages here just for the child to be able to, you know, write on, draw pictures. You know, maybe this book is primarily about occupations. And there's the heroine of the story, which is a little girl. She believes that she can be, you know, multiple things within the story. And there's actually always also a boy one where, you know, it's a boy envisioning that he can be multiple things. But, you know, maybe the child is reading these books and, you know, none of the occupations that my daughter chose is something that they can envision. Well, there's room in the back of the book for them to go ahead and write and draw pictures of what they believe they can do. So I think it's a great idea if you're writing a children's book to put, you know, some space in the back just for a child to start to be creative.
I love it. And I love the fact that you have one for boys, so boys can also identify themselves.
Yes.
We often forget about boys and their feelings and their social emotional wellness.
Yes, boys are creative too. You know, I think a lot of times, and it could just be by nature, you know, in the nature of girls and women, we tend to push our daughters into doing a lot of these creative things. But, you know, boys have a certain level of creativity. You may have to draw it out of them more. And the topics, it just may be that certain topics don't interest them and they're more interested in other things. So, you know, you can not push, but you can introduce, you know, book writing and these type of creative things to your sons as well. And you may find that they really enjoy it.
And you might even start just by journaling. How was your day today? Or every day, like getting them into the habit of writing and what their thoughts were, their feelings.
Yes, their feelings and not internalizing their feelings. You know, girls tend to be chatterboxes. We talk so much more about our feelings. And, you know, I think historically, you know, we don't even realize we're doing it, but we teach our sons to internalize their feelings as well. And I think that's one of the things we need to start to change a little bit. It doesn't make your son any less manly or doesn't make them softer, but it actually makes them better, you know, as they grow up, and prepares them for life, being able to, you know, really speak about their feelings. And what better way to do that than by writing? And being comfortable writing.
Being comfortable, especially expressing their feelings, like different cultures, like it's not okay for a boy to cry.
Correct.
Especially in public.
Correct.
So like teaching our kids that it's okay if you have feelings and emotion to like express them and find ways to cope, right? So you don't have a meltdown in public. I mean, it might happen, but with time you build skills that you're going to be able to control them, right?
Yes, exactly.
I know I have my meltdowns sometimes.
I think I had a meltdown yesterday, actually. So
that's a whole other video we're gonna have to talk about.
The fresh off the press meltdown. Okay. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. And then I think this slide here is key to when you start thinking about how much your book is going to cost. You want to keep these things in mind. So how many characters do you plan to have? And one thing that I learned throughout this process is the more characters you have in the book, the more money you're going to pay. Illustrators tend to charge you by character. So how it goes is the first thing they'll ask you is how many characters you want, and do you want it to just be characters on a page, or do you want characters with a whole scene? Do you want the characters in a scene? So depending on what you ask for, that's how they're going to charge you. So I would plan to have 1 to 2 characters per scene maximum. And it's a children's book, so you want to try to keep your storyline simple anyway. But I currently have a student who's she's going through the course, and she's almost done, actually. She's at the illustration point, and a couple of her scenes, because the book is centered around her family dynamic. So she has 3 children. So a few of the scenes has all 5 of them in the scene. So those illustrations costed her more than the scenes that just had 1 to 2 characters. So before you know, think big with all these different things in your illustrations, I would definitely keep in mind that 1 to 2 characters is going to be golden in terms of saving you money on your illustrations, especially if you're cost conscious at this time. And then you want to start to think about how you're going to introduce your characters. You know, are you going to introduce your characters right off the bat? Are you going to just jump into the story, or are you going to start off with one character who kind of grows as the reader starts to read, and then you introduce characters as the reader goes along? So you want to, if you're going to have a full-on story, and this is not like a basic board book or rhyme time, you want to think about your character development, because remember, you want to try to stay within that 24, 28 page parameter for your children's book. So you don't want your story to go on and on and on. So you just kind of want, at the beginning stages, before you get too committed and invested in developing this super long storyline, just think about how you want to, as concise as possible, develop your characters in a meaningful way that's meaningful to the reader, so that they're getting something out of what you've written. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so I thought it'd be helpful for you if writing a book interests you, and you've determined that, oh, you know what, this is something that I could totally do, or this is something that I think, my son or daughter would love to do. Your to-dos this week, or whenever you choose to give this some time, would be first to write your manuscript, keeping in mind some of the parameters that I've mentioned here, and then two, after you've done all of that, to name your book. You can go to the next slide. And just to give you a scope and a sense of what this could look like for you, I wanted to show you my daughter Jaden's project. So this is her, who's now a published author, and you see she has the 2 books. And when we started, it was really just the purple book. It was the girl book. The boy book wasn't even a thought. And after we went ahead and we published it, she was just kind of like, well, I think I want to do one for boys, because I don't want the boys to feel left out. And I'm like, that's an awesome idea. But I had already had the blueprint from doing the purple one, so we were actually able to get the boy book done in under 2 weeks, like from start to finish. Like she wrote it, and then after she wrote it, I sent it off to the illustrator, sent it off because I already knew who I wanted to use. And I already knew how much it was going to cost. And then I just added it to the website. And we actually, one of the strategies that I teach helps people to make sales on their book before it's actually gone into print. So that's what we did for her there. Just so
people were able to pre-order?
Exactly. People were able to pre-order her yellow book. So, as the purple book was launching, people also had the option to get the yellow book. And if you want to actually see her webpage, you can go to linjbooks.com. That's her website. And we did printables for her as well. So if you look at all of the elements that surround those 2 books, on the left there is a journal. It's a 365-day journal that we came up with her, because we're very big on affirmations here in my house. And it's just a form of encouragement for my daughter, because what I didn't mention to you guys is that reading is not a strong point for her. And that was, she gets wonderful grades in school, but she works so hard for them. And reading is something that she really had to work on. So, seeing this book come to fruition for her was just huge. Being a writer, being an author, and knowing that, reading was a little bit of a struggle for her. It's just like, as a mom, I can't describe the feeling and the pride that I feel for what she's done here. So anyway, we did the journal. Again, it's a 365-day journal, and it features a daily affirmation for each week. 52 weeks out of the year. Yeah. And, little girls, she did it for girls. That's what she wanted. They have the opportunity to write their thoughts on the affirmation throughout the journal, some calendaring and stuff in there. And it's a printable. So what's nice about a printable is that you don't have to spend a ton of money sending it to print and then charging a ton of money to get it sold. And once people purchase it, it's immediately downloadable. So people have the option, once they buy her 2 books, to download the journal immediately. And we did the same with a few activity books, which was nice for people throughout the COVID quarantine. Parents were struggling to find things for their kids to do without taking them outside. So her sister Maya she is obsessed with travel. So we did like a travel theme activity book for her. And then you see like there's a freestyle workbook. It features like Sudoku and crossword puzzles and word searches and those types of things. And then she's got like some coloring pages. And, you know, these workbooks, we sell at $2 a pop. So what we tried to do for her was, you know, just create value and a buying experience for everyone who expressed interest in purchasing her book. So these are things that I teach my students to do once they launch their book to maximize the amount of money that they make. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, the name of my course is the LOL Strategy, and the course is really a 4-week course, and it teaches you to launch your children's book in 30 days or less, and on a budget. You know, this is not an expensive process, and I teach you to self-publish. And self-publishing for me is very, very important because another thing, I'll just throw you a nugget that I learned was that if you were to publish through Amazon straight away, they're going to take all of your money. All of your money. And just to give you, you know, a scope, my daughter makes about, on the book alone, her profit is about $5 a book. In her printables, it's a repeatable process. So once I paid to have the printables created, that's it. You post them, you sell them, you don't have to do anything else with them. It just keeps making money. So for every bundle, you know, she buys, you know, she's making an additional maybe $5 on top of the other $5. When we looked into selling these books on Amazon, she would make about 75 cents per book. So, you know, again, as a mom, you know, I want my daughter to make as much money as she can. So what I teach is for people to self-publish first. Obviously, you know, you're not going to have the same reach as Amazon does globally, but at the very least, once you've exhausted friends, family, your social network, and you've made all that money, then would be the time to go ahead and publish on Amazon, you know, to get that expanded audience, global royalties. But I believe in self-publishing so that you can maximize your profits from the door. It has, I think I have 5 modules. And again, I guide you through weekly, and you have access to me when you purchase this course from start to finish. And you can't see the bonuses there, but I'll tell you exactly what they are on the next slide. So the bonus, I think this is probably the biggest and most important bonus here, is the vendor contact list. So all of the vendors that I vetted and looked up and used and contacted, I am giving to you. So you don't have to research anything. You want an illustrator? I've given you a list of illustrators that I looked at and approved and have used. I'm providing social media templates that I encourage people to use before they launch. If you're like me, you know, before I started this course, my social media, like if you go to my LOL strategy page, I actually, you know, did not have very many social media posts. It's a pain point for me. So what I wanted to do is make it easy. If you're like me, you're not comfortable with social media, just something to get you started, to get people active on your page so that when you launch that book, it's not the first thing you're doing. What people hate is to be sold to. People do not like to be sold to. So don't let the first time that they hear from you, you know, you don't want it to be when you're trying to sell them something. So you want to engage them for a while, get them comfortable, let them love you, finesse them. And then by the time your book is ready and you're ready to launch, they're used to hearing from you. It's not the first time they're hearing from you. So I've got some really good social media templates for you. And the LOL Collective is a Facebook community, and we just connect there. So if you ever have any questions, you know, I'm very active in the group. Also, you can connect with other people who are writing. And that's, I think, to me, I think that's golden. My current students, some of them have built some really nice relationships as they're going through the course. And then I have something that I call Keeping Up with the Collective, and that's something for young authors. So if you're doing this for your son or daughter, I would love to connect them on a Zoom, you know, whether it's 2 or 3 or 10 of them, something where they can get together and encourage each other. One thing that I wish I had when I was growing up was the teaching that, you know, everyone can win, right? Even though we're all doing the same thing, we can be there for each other. We can encourage each other. And I think it would be great to have our young people get together and encourage each other as they're on this journey. You can go to the last slide. Okay, so my course is $27. And hopefully, you find that nominal. And again, that encompasses everything. You have access to me, program start to finish. And if you want to learn any more, you can go to the lolstrategy.com, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about me, my daughter, and your course. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at LOL Strategy, or Facebook, the LOL Strategy.
Awesome. So this is how you guys can stay in touch with Materia. I have to look at your name in my little post. I don't mess it up. Materia. And let me tell you, I've seen book writing courses for over $1,000.
Oh,
and you don't get printable. You don't get printables. All you get is like the basic of like your outlines and maybe a little template. So this is a steal. You pay an investment of $27. So if you divide that, well, if you don't divide it, but if you think about all the McDonald's that we buy and spend on our kids, it's nothing compared to the prices that are out there. And take it from a mom that started from scratch and that did all the research and that did the trials and error, many errors, right? Until you got it right.
A lot of errors, a lot of wasted money. That's the other thing. I wasted so much money because, again, as a mom, you want to go hard for your child, right? So it's like, we don't have it right now, but no expense spared trying to do this. And I made some mistakes on the way because, again, I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So, I'm testing this stuff out. I know what it's like being in that spot. So because I've done it, I want to be able to share it with other moms and make it affordable for other moms. Because to your point, Rosa, yes, there are courses out there, even for $500. Think about it. If I'm going to pay $500 to learn how to do this, but then I need to spend another, I think from start to finish, including her website, all of her marketing material and stuff, we spent about $250 for her launch. Then now I'm $750 in, and then 9 times out of 10, after you spent that $500 for that course, you still need more. They're not giving you contacts. You still have a certain level of trial and error. And I wanted to take all of that worry away and make this as simple, as simplified, and as affordable as possible for other parents to do what we've done here.
So like, let's say you struggle building this and launching it, but that doesn't mean that the parents here that are willing to try this or have the child experience what it's like to write their own book, and with, of course, the parents' help. So they don't have to struggle because you have the blueprint in a way of them, of the steps that they need to take. And guys, $27 is not a lot. It's a small investment for a long-term profit. And when I say profit, not necessarily meaning money, more like you're teaching your child leadership skills, entrepreneurship. This is huge now in this day and age, especially with the pandemic going on. We don't know where this is heading. This is a way that you can generate a little bit of income to supplement something if you're not working, or if you are working. So you're still working, right? You work full time?
I work full time. I work in finance in Midtown Manhattan, and again, this is just something that, we did for her. My kids, my dad is an entrepreneur, so I think they've kind of inherited this entrepreneurial spirit. So their very first business was last year. We bought them sewing machines because they wanted to learn how to sew. And they ended up, just fast forwarding a little bit, they learned to sew pillows. That was the first thing they learned to sew, but then they had all this extra material. So they started sewing doll pillows with the extra matting and extra material that they had. So they started selling Mommy and Me pillows for little girls and their dolls. That was their very first business, So now moving to last December when they started writing, I'm like, you know what? I really want to do this for her. And she's my daughter has seen it through. And let's not even get into the speaking engagements. She's had speaking engagements, So this is, I think, the experience for a child to see this. I think writing a book, something that comes natural for a child, is a wonderful way to start your child's entrepreneurial experience.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for your time. I posted the links in the comments, and I will send you the video of the presentation. So thank you so much for your time, guys. Go ahead and follow her. If you're not able to sign up for her course that's coming up, make sure you go follow her on Instagram. If you have questions after this live, make sure you email her. And you can check out other things that she's doing here on her website. So thank you, Materia, for this.
Thank you, Rosa.
And guys, the things that you will learn in this course don't only apply to children's book. You can apply for your book too if you were planning to write a book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I actually have someone, a student who, so she started off wanting to do this for herself, and then discovered that her daughter had her daughter's a little bit older. Her daughter had manuscripts as well. So a few of the vendors that she was utilizing for her children's book, she's utilizing for her daughter's chapter book.
Oh, wow.
So that alone saved her so much time and money with the vetting process and stuff. So absolutely, these vendors can not only, they're not only applicable to children's books, they can be used for novels and chapter books as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I learned so much today too, because I'm planning to do a course for adults. Yeah. But I'm like, oh wow, I didn't think about doing like printables that you can print, even though it's not going to be doodle. But you know what? I've seen some doodles for adults. Especially when you go to school and you do, you get distracted easily. You can do that in a meeting. It keeps your like brain entertained and awake.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're gonna let you go since I know you have things to do. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.